Have you heard about this saying, like father, like son, or like mother, like daughter? If you're familiar with this saying, most probably what comes to your mind is that a son follows in the footsteps of his father. And this could be both from a positive perspective or from a negative perspective. Now, when we talk about like father, like son, what comes to my mind is Abraham, because the initial plan of God was for Abraham to become the blessing itself, would then transfer this inheritance to his son Isaac, and from Isaac to Jacob, Israel. So that's how the blessing of God was meant to be transferred from generation to generation. Unfortunately, there are people that witness something the contrary. They witness a generational curse from generation to generation. Now, can a curse be broken? Absolutely. However, for a curse to be broken, we no longer say like father, like son. And that's why today's topic is slightly different from this traditional saying. Today we're talking about like father, unlike son. And we're reading from Joel chapter 1, verse 4. Well, the chewing locust left, the swarming locust has eaten. While the swarming locust left, the crawling locust has eaten. And while the crawling locust left, the consuming locust has eaten. Very well. So we are meditating in the book of Joel, and we are reading chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. It's clear that in the book of Joel, the people were facing droughts, plagues that were reoccurring through grasshoppers that would destroy the crops. The cattle was dying. There was no water. In short, a total disaster. Now, something interesting here is that you have the grasshoppers, the locusts, but they are manifesting themselves in 4 different ways, meaning that the enemy works in many different ways. And in this case, it was like wave after wave, plague after plague. And if you are watching that, if you are observing that, and you see one plague after the other, a person should pause and analyze and ask themselves, what are my eyes seeing? The same problem is repeating itself. Intelligent people, they would not see that as bad luck or a coincidence. So take, for example, if you have a young man, right? And he sees his father or his parents or his grandparents committing the same error time and again. This young man, he can say to himself, I don't need to make the same mistake. I can change the playbook, I can change course, and I need to do something different. And this is interesting because plague after plague, and nobody woke up and thought to themselves, wait a minute, we need to do something different. I'm not just blindly going to follow in the footsteps of the elders or my parents or my uncles, my aunties, my grandparents. In short, I need to do something different. I need to break the course, break the routine. And this is intelligent faith. The message is not about youth causing a rebellion against their parents. Please don't misunderstand this. We're talking about when there's a cycle, a vicious cycle of curse, of a plague, of negativity, then you need to observe this and take action quickly. And this was lacking because surely they could see it, but they needed somebody else from the outside to come to point it out. And normally it's like that. When a new person arrives in a place, he may see things from a different perspective because the people that are already in that place, in that location, in that workplace, they got used to the surroundings, they got used to the flow, to the routine. And sometimes it takes somebody from the outside, a different set of eyes, to see things from a different perspective. In this case, the prophet Joel.
You know, I even wrote here the reason why people see the same suffering like their parents is because they keep doing the same mistakes.
Mhm.
And they call it sometimes culture, they call it tradition, but that's exactly what happens. You see, the same thing is happening not because it's a punishment from God because
Yeah.
your parents did something wrong. It's not a punishment, it's simply a result of the things that your parents have done. They reap the consequences, and if you follow the same things, you will also continue reaping the same results. So in order to change that, is turning to God and seeing where things went out of the way, and repairing, going back to the track. Complaining and feeling pity for yourself is not going to change anything. As you started speaking, this verse came to my mind in Ezekiel 18:20, that says, "The soul who sins shall die." And that's what was happening to the people in the times of Joel, right? The son shall not bear the guilt of the father, clearly, nor the father bear the guilt of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon himself. So if you do what is right, righteousness will be upon yourself. So it's not about God punishment, it's the results, is the consequences of what we do, right? And the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon himself. And that's what the people there in the times of Joel, they were experiencing. So because they were wicked, they start to behave in a wicked way, forgetting God, neglecting God, then weakness came upon themselves. But also, there is a call to repent. Joel said, consecrate yourselves, right? So, meaning, there is a way to get out of this cycle. There is a way. The way is not to complain, is not to feel pity for yourself, but the way is for you to analyze where the things got wrong and fix it and never do it again. And then you will see the results of that.
Yeah, for the sake of tradition, for the sake of culture, for the sake of what people do all their life, sometimes there are certain people, they are afraid of, let's say, breaking the pattern, changing the blueprint. Now, Joel was sent there with the purpose to break the cycle, to interrupt the curse, and to give people a chance to start a new life. And maybe you are watching today and you are thirsty for a new beginning. You are thirsty for peace. You are thirsty for mercy. You are thirsty for a new start. You are thirsty for God's forgiveness. And you don't want to stay in the same situation. Whatever it takes, you are willing to break the cycle, break culture, tradition, habits, social pressures. In short, you're ready to do anything it takes in order for you to change the story of your life and consequently the story of your family. This weekend, we will bring you to the fountain of living water. And God will give you one inspiration, one direction to revolutionize your life. We will have the meeting 7 a.m. in the morning in Tagalog. We will have a Chinese meeting 10:30 and 2 English meetings 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. together with the Lord's Supper, the Holy Communion. So this is especially for you that you say to yourself, I don't want to get stuck in this situation I'm living. I don't want to be controlled by my past. I don't want to be controlled by my surroundings. I want change. If you want change, you will experience change. All right? You can scan the QR code for you to find your details how to travel here to the Universal Church in Hong Kong. And if you are watching from any part of the world, the church has an address in over 150 countries. Okay, this is the address here in Hong Kong, and this is the schedule. We're open 7 days a week. You can go to our landing page. You can even call us for more information. Call the helpline. All right? May all of you be abundantly blessed, and we see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.
God bless.
After we lost our son, lost our store, and were humiliated, I said, enough. We are not going to lose anything else. I was working at a company, and my wife was. I said, honey, what do you want to work with? Let's open a clothing store. Let's do it. We rented a shop, a small shop. And with the little money that I had, I made the shelves myself. I made the counter myself, the fitting room. The first customer who came said to us, are you closing down? Because we had so few clothes, there were 2 or 3 little mannequins, you know, something, well, no, today is the first day. A business consulting company came and analyzed our business, and he made it very clear, you are not going to last. There was no cash reserve, according to the survey. There was no reserve fund. There was no cash flow. And because of the merchandise we had, he said, look, according to the numbers and our understanding, you are not going to move forward. And my wife, in that situation, she called me, honey, it's not going to work. It's not going to work because there are so few clothes. I said, honey, calm down. We are tithers. God will prosper us because we brought God into our project. So when he turned his back, I looked at my wife and said, he is talking nonsense. He doesn't know who God is. He doesn't know who we have as our ally. And in this, our faithfulness continued. First fruits, honoring God, always treating our first fruits to God as a priority, above everything. And time went by. God gave us a car. Then we started to have a little more money. And at that time, everything was fine. Family. We traveled. We went out. We always prioritized God. Since we work in the clothing business, we had trips. Our clothes were good. My daughters wore newly released clothes. We were invited to participate in fashion shows. Everything was fine. Family, financial life, professional life. Until we started looking at the things we never had. We started looking at what we wanted, not what God wanted. We started prioritizing our own will. We started prioritizing things like saying, "Let's go to a steakhouse on a Wednesday." So it wasn't right to have that kind of thinking. The priority was God, and yet we go. Many times she didn't want to. But I would say, "No, let's go. It's not only church, we go on Sunday and that's it." So we started missing services. We started failing to prioritize God. And then I even started having arguments with my wife, because she would call me to church. "Let's go to church." "No." "We'll go in the afternoon." "Let's go eat some shrimp at the beach." And in the afternoon, we'll eat and come back. We'll go to church. And we wouldn't go. And we were so lost. Lost that in my mind, I already knew that since I was no longer prioritizing God, I had to look for an alternative to have security. I hired an alarm system for the store, an alarm company whose office was only 3 streets behind their headquarters. And in the middle of all this, there was the first robbery at our store. The first robbery was one that caused a lot of devastation. But the second robbery was a complete looting. And during that complete looting, the alarm didn't go off. The thing in which I had placed my security, a renowned security company with the latest alarm systems, failed. We went through hardships. Hardships like going to the supermarket to buy 3 eggs. The market only sells full cartons, right? Yet we would buy 3 eggs. Buying pork because it is cheaper. So these were lower grade cuts of meat and pork, which is much cheaper than beef. And in the death of faith, the real death of faith, you have no way out. You cannot even speak to God. You don't have the courage to speak to God, because I was in the wrong, having left God behind. This was a point of great suffering, until I reached the point where I had to say the following: enough. That's enough. We need to return to God. When I returned to church, I returned with only one conviction. Now, I am not just going to give the tithe, I am going to give myself to God. My surrender was complete. I started praying again. I started prioritizing the Word of God again, the will of God. My own self was no longer there. In fact, there is only God before me. So because of this, and from that moment on, everything was restored. God took care of me, of my surrender, and through my surrender, today my family is blessed. Today we have a blessed business. Today I am a businessman, my wife is a businesswoman, our children work with us. Today, what I am to God is much more important than what I place on the altar, because I honor God with my life. My surrender to God is what brings me peace and the certainty that God is with me.
Has Sunday become just another day in your week? A time to sleep in, catch up on chores, or simply zone out? Many Christians find themselves falling into this routine, forgetting the true meaning of Sunday, the Lord's Day. But there's a way to transform your Sundays, a way to make them truly special. The Bible instructs us to set aside one day a week for God in honor of the day Jesus Christ rose from the dead. By prioritizing God on Sundays, countless lives have been transformed. It's a chance to give Him the first place in your life and watch amazing things unfold. This Sunday, take the first step. Prepare yourself and attend an empowerment meeting at the UCKG Help Center. Sundays at 7 a.m. in Tagalog, 10:30 a.m. in Chinese, and 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. in English. Don't let another Sunday pass you by. Make it the Lord's Day. Find your encounter with God.